In this video, we are going to work on word problems. Each of these, for the most part, are going to require two equations. Here we go with the first one. The difference of two equations is 264. The word difference here stands for subtraction. We don't know anything about the numbers, so we'll call them x and y. So we'll have x minus y is equal to 264. The largest number is 3 times the smaller. Now, I contend that we do know the largest number is x, because when we subtract larger minus smaller, you get a positive number. Had y been larger, when we went x minus y, we would have ended up with a negative. So x is the larger number. X, then, the larger number, is 3 times the smaller number, 3y. So there's our two equations we're going to use, and since we have an x equals, we're going to substitute the second equation into the first equation, giving us 3y as our substitution minus the other y is equal to 264. Combining like terms, we have 2y is equal to 264, and dividing each side by 2, we get y is equal to 132. Now that's not enough. We need to get the other part of our answer. So you can substitute into either of the two equations up above. Since we're trying to find x and we've got an x equals, that kind of makes sense that we just say x is 3 times this other number, which gives us 396. And so those are our two numbers making our solution. Moving on to the next problem here, it looks like we've got a problem dealing with angles. Two angles are supplementary. You need to remember that supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So we have x plus y is equal to 180. Don't get that word mixed up with the word complementary. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. The measure of one angle, I'll just say that's x, is 9 more than 9 plus twice the other angle, 2y. So there's our two equations. Since I have an x equals, I'm going to substitute the second equation into the first equation. And that's going to give me 9 plus 2y as the substitution, plus the y that's already there in the line above equals 180. Combining like terms, we're going to get 9 plus 3y is equal to 180. We'll subtract the 9 off of both sides. That will give us 3y is equal to 171. And then we'll divide each side by 3, which will give us 57. Now we need the other angle. We can choose either of the top two equations to substitute into. I'd rather just think in my head, oh, my two angles add up to 180, and subtract the 57 away from the 180 to find out that the remaining angle measures 123 degrees, and just double check, yes, they do add up to 180. Okay, our next problem is a mixture problem, and as you know, I do them a little bit differently than your typical method using tables. I'm mixing together two different things. So here's my mixing bowls, mixing them together. How many gallons of a 20% antifreeze? I don't have the amount, and I label the amounts on the bottom. Of a 20% antifreeze, I put prices and percents on the top there. And a 10% antifreeze, that will be the other thing I'm mixing together. I don't know how much of that either. There's my y. Must be mixed together to obtain 40 gallons, that's my total amount down on the bottom, of a 16% antifreeze. Normally with percentages you need to list them as decimals, but since all three of these are percentages, we can just multiply through 100 and move the decimal over 2 places and basically just ignore that those percentage signs are there. Our two equations are going to be top times bottom, 20x, plus top times bottom, 10y, equals top times bottom, 16 times 4 is 64, tack on the 0, 640. The other equation we get by just reading across the bottom, x plus y equals 40. There's our two equations to solve. Let's see what happens. I'm going to slide that up a little bit. I have a choice now of using substitution or elimination. I think I'd like to have a negative 10 to cancel the positive 10 out. So I'm going to use the top equation as is. Second equation I'm going to multiply through by negative 10. So I'm going to rewrite my top equation, 20x plus 10y equals 640. And multiplying that second equation through by negative 10 gives us negative 10x minus 10y equals negative 400. We designed this problem so that the y's would cancel each other out, and so adding down we've got 10x equals 240, and dividing each side by 10 tells us x is equal to 24. The units here are gallons, and if we look back at how we labeled our diagram, x went with the 20% antifreeze solution, so I'll put a little at 20% listed there. I need the other portion of my answer. I know that together my x and y add up to 40, and so 24 plus 16 gallons makes the 40. And y was the 10% antifreeze solution, so I'm going to write at 10% right there.